Hello all. In this particular video, I am actually going to talk about the difference between the project mindset and the product mindset. Because nowadays we actually keep on we actually keep on hearing that multiple companies are actually embarking on the journey of a project to product, either as a part of the digital transformation strategy or as a part of the business transformation. So let me go ahead and then share my screen, and then probably I can walk you through, using a simple notepad. Let me just try to, elucidate the difference. Okay, so when actually someone is actually asking us, right? So what is the difference between the project and the product? What is the difference between the project and the product mindset? Instead of actually jumping into the solutions directly, it is always better to define the parameters. Okay, so what did I mean by the parameters? Possibly the budgeting mechanism. The second could be the time frames associated with it. Third could be the success criteria or the definition of a success, right? Okay. Then the fourth thing could be probably talking on the team's composition and like what kind of a strategy, or rather what kind of an approach we are actually using for a prioritization, and possibly the visibility aspect, and also on the risk dimension. Okay, so why am I saying this is, whenever you are actually trying to compare the project mindset versus the product mindset, it is always advisable for us to define the, okay, what are all the parameters, what are all the criterias, what are all the attributes, so that I actually fix the attribute and then I can make a comparison between project versus a product. I think this particular approach will be more matured approach, rather than just jumping into the answer and then saying project means blah blah blah, product means blah blah blah. Okay, now what is that we will try to do is, let us actually take, each of these things and then try to deep dive in it. Okay, so first thing is the budgeting. So what happens in a project based budgeting? It is predominantly you are actually trying to fund the predefined milestones, because typically even by the definition of a PMI, a project is a short term endeavor. A project is a temporary endeavor. So by the definition of it, what actually happens is, you are actually trying to fund the predefined milestones. Okay, and generally in a project based environment, the tendency of the project manager or the orientation of a thinking of the project people will be to spend the entire budget, or rather spend the budget within the timelines, right? This is what it typically happens in a project based scenario. Now for the same parameter, if you think through a product based, what actually happens? Because in a product based, the focus is more on the outcomes. So the focus is more on the delivery of a business results, right? Focus on delivery of business results. In actually some of the cases, it could be an output, or it could be a business outcome. Okay, business outcome, because without actually going through the path of the output, you actually cannot jump to the business outcome. So this is something what I actually thought to share at the beginning. Next, what is that we are actually going to do in a project based like in a product based mindset? We are actually trying to deliver some kind of an incremental results, right? For example, in the sprint one, possibly I will have a MVP model of the product. I will actually validate it based on the outcome. Then I will take a decision whether to continue funding or not. So always have this particular thought in your mind. Whenever we are talking about a product mindset, there will be an element of a agility in that, responding to the market rather than just following a plan. Okay, fine. So this is the second thing. Now let us go to the time frames. Okay. So generally, actually, what actually happens in the industry is, if you are taking a project approach, by the definition of the project, it has a defined end date, and okay, followed by an end state, right? And no focus no focus on some kind of a maintenance activities or a continuous upgradation of the project once the initial project ends, or rather the first cut of the project completed. The continuous thinking and orientation will not be there if you are actually taking a project mindset. Okay, so no focus on a maintenance activities once the initial milestone is met. Probably I can actually put it like a put it like in this manner. Now if you are actually taking the same aspect of a time frame, 1 second please. If you're actually talking on the same aspect of a time frame on a product, it is a lifetime support, or rather depending upon the extension of the contract, or rather depending upon the maturity life cycle of that particular product in the market, based upon the sustainability aspect of the product in the market, this particular support will be provided. Support will be provided on continuous basis, something like that I can put. Then one more important thing is ongoing maintenance activities will also be factored, or rather accounted for, right? Factored for. Okay, so what is that I'm actually trying to say is, try to call out the attributes, try to call out the parameters, and then fix the parameter. For this fixed parameter, what happens in a project mindset, what actually happens in a product mindset. Now if you do like this in a very structured manner, the benefit is you are covering the breadth, and for the given segment or the attribute, you are also covering the depth. So your answers will have both breadth and depth. Okay, now let us actually get into the success criteria or the definition of it done. Okay, 1 second please. Okay, so typically in a project based approach, right, it is from my opinion, based on my 20 years of experience in IT, typically a project is basically a cost center based the cost center based approach. That is why even in some of the salary slips, right, given by the reputed organization, you can find a variable called the cost center code. So this cost center code is actually something which is going to tell, hey, this employee is being paid salary from this particular business unit, from this particular delivery unit, or this particular cost center. Now, unfortunately, typically in a real-time situation, if you are actually talking about a value stream, it could be an it actually could be an operational value stream, or it actually could be a developmental value stream. All that I'm trying to say is, sometimes value streams cut across multiple applications, so value streams cut across multiple cost centers. That is why the reason generally the cost center based model and the value stream based funding model do not work together simultaneously. They will not gel well. Okay, now coming to the point of this project mindset, in terms of the definition of a success, we are actually trying to see basically a cost center based approach, and also measure it on time. Okay, within the time had I completed the work. Okay, within the budget had I completed the work. That's it. I'm not bothered about if my market needle, if my market, which is a moving needle, changes, how far I'm actually responding to it. No, because my project document says this is the success criteria, but my question is, what is the guarantee that that success criteria makes relevance as on date also? Okay, Fine. Now this is more from a project. So wherever I'm putting project, you can take it as it's for project mindset. And for the same parameter, we will try to see on the product mindset. Okay. Now, if you come to the product mindset, generally, based upon multiple sources of information, what I have got, typically it is more aligned to a profit center approach. Okay, I am sure that you understand the difference between a cost center versus a profit center. Simple English. And here the fundamental thing is measure it on a business outcome. Okay, some people ask me, what do you mean by business outcome? My say is, ask to the business boss, what is the outcome that you are expecting? Because if you are actually talking about business value need to be told by the business, right? So ask to the business sponsor or ask to your product owner, who is actually supposed to be the internal voice of the customer, saying that what is the value definition in this particular context, right? So business outcomes could be improvement in the CSAT score, improvement in the employee engagement and number, net promoter score, NPS, improvement in the predictability, productivity, responsiveness, quality. And for example, if you are luckily, fortunately able to quantify the innovation and the continuous improvement, that also could be that also can be considered either as an agile outcome or as a business outcome, depending upon the context, right? Because context gives life to the content. Now the point what I'm trying to say is, if you are taking success criteria, clearly speaking, there is a difference between a success criteria of a project versus a product. Because in product, your product is actually a subset of your operational value stream, which is going to directly touch the customer or the customer's surrogate in some of the cases, or the end users. So what happens in a product based approach or the thinking is, your success criteria is measured by the business outcomes. Okay, next you come to the teams. See, as we all know, in the project based mindset, there will be frequent shifting of the people. Why? Because project by intrinsically is a temporary endeavor. Okay, once the vacation ends, you need to check out the hotel and return to your home. Same thing with your project. Once the project ends, that particular team will be dismantled, and then these particular people, which I actually don't want to use the word resources, so I prefer to use the word people or teams. So once the project is getting dismantled or completed or whatever it is, these particular people will be deployed onto some other initiative. That is the intrinsic problem, that you cannot build a stable, sustainable teams if you are having a project mindset. So in a project mindset, we are bringing people to work, whereas in a product mindset, that particular team composition is a fixed one. So what I do there, I bring work to the people, right? And here what happens, here there will be frequent shuffling and the churn rate, right? Whereas in a product mindset, it is a stable and long-term teams. Long-term teams. Okay, see, some of the clients actually tell to me that we actually need to have a continuous requirement changes. We need to have a high volatile because the market is very volatile. We may need to entertain higher churn rate of the requirements. So now what happens? Requirements are also changing. Teams are also changing. Then obviously obviously how you can actually expect a predictability, productivity, responsiveness, and quality. Because for you to have predictable productivity, responsiveness, and quality, either the requirement should not change beyond a certain level, which is not possible in this particular VUCA world. So at least don't change the team frequently. Too many parameter changes will not actually take us anywhere. So those aspects we may need to keep in mind. Okay, this is more from a team composition. Now Now, let us actually get into the fifth thing. What I wrote here is the prioritization, right? So let us take this here. One sec. Okay, prioritization. Okay. So when it comes to the prioritization, what we actually do in a project, it is typically a plan-driven approach, right? You have a plan, you have a sequence of activities which has been created in a beautiful Gantt charts, and then you put a predecessor, successor, then you do some resource leveling, all these things which we have seen in the traditional model, where completion of task is the success criteria for a project. So now what happens in the prioritization is that the ability to actually handle whenever there is a requirement change is actually very less, because it is a plan driven approach. Whereas if you're taking a product, if you are actually taking a product, you do have a roadmap of the product which you can take from even from the agile onion planning model, and you have a hypothesis driven testing, right? So you have a hypothesis which will be validated along the journey, right? So these aspects we need to take care when you are talking about a prioritization. Then let's actually talk about the sixth thing called the visibility, in the interest of time. Okay. So when you come to visibility, generally speaking, in your product, believe me, based upon the alignment between business and the IT in the past, generally if you are taking visibility, IT is always a black box. IT is always a black box to the business, right? Business says, hey, IT guys are doing something. IT guy says, yes, business has funded us. Apart from that, there is no much kind of a touch point. And most of the meetings are here overloaded. So you, right, overloaded, because when actually people spend too many time on meetings, you tell me where will they get time to work, because everyone has only 24 hours per day. And if someone is spending almost 8 to 9 hours only to sit in the meetings and attend meetings, I don't think the day will be very productive enough. Okay, probably efficiency could be there, but not effectiveness. Okay, fine. So here we are actually talking about visibility. Much of the things are a black box and the meetings are actually overloaded, and you are talking about the status of the status of the probably I can tell status of the okay, action items or the progress, something like that will be done in a project. Whereas if you are taking product, okay, it's my bad, sorry, 1 second, I should have put this, if not it may not be correct. Project, product, I actually follow the same sequence here, project followed by product. All right, 1 second. Okay. All right. So here, if I take product here predominantly there is a direct mapping to the business outcomes. Let me give an example. No, if not, it may sound you Greek and Latin. See, for example, you have actually purchased a mobile phone, cell phone, right? Mobile. Now the point here is you are not using all the features in that particular mobile in a equal manner, right? Because much of the times we use for calls or watching some kind of a YouTube videos, or you do a WhatsApp kind of a thing. So, but that particular mobile or the iPhone, Android, whatever it is, has lot of other features which is not equally used by the user persona, because you and me are in fact different user personas for that particular product called a mobile from a design thinking point of view. Now the point is, in a product based ecosystem, we used to, after the feature gets deployed to the production, right, we used to have some mechanisms to track something called a feature usage index, saying that, okay, out of this particular product, these are the features which are used more predominantly, and these are the features which is not used that much. And that particular feedback, because feature usage index seem to be a feedback which will be once again be cycled in so as to factor my further decision. So always remember one thing, in an agile driven engagement, we are always trying to make it more value driven, and you cannot make things value driven if you don't take feedback from your end users, clients, customers, or customer surrogates. Okay, so here it is directly mapped to the business outcome. So feedback is factored in. Okay, now let us go to the last one. See, because in your video, I can just tell only on a high level. Okay, so we have actually covered about budgeting, the time frames, then the success criteria, the team composition, what will be the prioritization, then followed by the visibility, and the last but not the least is the risk dimension. Now the point is, whenever we are actually talking about the risk, here generally this okay, here in a project mindset, yes, you create a risk log, you create a risk board, and you come up with your mitigation plan, and you actually come up with your mitigation or a contingency plan, and your PMI guide and your PMI materials say if you want to quantify a risk, you do impact into probability. All these things are fine, but now the point is, are you allowing the risk to evolve in tune with the market changes? That aspect will not be there in a traditional waterfall model, because in a traditional waterfall model, you always think like it is a fixed target. Let me take a gun and shoot the target. Let me take a bow and like the bow and arrow and hit the target. Whereas in a product ecosystem or a product mindset, or rather in an agile driven ecosystem, the target itself is a moving target. So at a mindset level, that is why we are also saying mindset is actually very important. So we need to understand what do you mean by why, what do you mean by the word mindset, and then why it is so important. Because here in the project, it will be, risk will be identified and planned for early, and the risk will be viewed as a scary one, right? Whereas if you're taking a product mindset, even the risk is allowed to evolve or emerge over a period of a time. And you have, and here also you have your risk burn down charts, right? And here risk has been viewed as a potential opportunity. Okay. So as to create a differentiator also. So in this particular video, all that I was trying to tell is, whenever you are having a situation of project to product mindset, first define some parameters. Okay, I'm not saying that you need to take all these 7 parameters only. I am saying something out of my experience. You can still change the parameter, but for that parameter, fix the parameter, and then define what is a project versus a product. If we do like this, you will have more the breadth of the subject and also the depth of the subject. If in case you have any real-time challenges, feel free to connect with me. 1 second, wait, I'll just stop sharing. Okay, so if in case you have any real-time challenges in terms of the agile implementation, or if you have any challenges to clear your interviews, or if you have any real-time challenges, or if you want any kind of a career guidance that you want to talk to me, and you wanted to know how to become a scrum master, how to become an agile coach, and how to become an agile project manager, probably I will share my WhatsApp number in the description of this particular YouTube video. You can just ping me on a WhatsApp, and then you can try to block my time on a Calendly, and then we can probably connect for 30 minutes, and definitely I will try to see the best what value that I can add you in that particular 30 minutes. Okay, all the best to all. Cheers and thanks. Yeah, bye.